Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us today on this tour of AI tools through the JKM library. We are recording this. I will be posting this up on the library's YouTube channel just so other folks who couldn't make it today can catch up and folks can revisit and kind of explore tools on demand. So we are going to be looking at tools that have been included into databases and tools that the library already subscribes to. So these are things that the vendors that we subscribe to and partner with have developed for their own resources, and they are kind of slowly rolling some things out. These things are very much in development. We're in early days for the technology and for the implementation of the technology. So we expect that a lot of things will be changing from here on out, really. So the databases that we're going to be exploring today, if we have enough time, are the Chronicle of Higher Education, EBSCO's All Resources tool. So EBSCO is in an interesting position as it pertains to the JKM library, which I will get into. So we're only going to be looking at one of EBSCO's products today, but we do subscribe to a lot of EBSCO's products. We are going to be looking at JStor, NexisUni, the Oxford English Dictionary, ScienceDirect, and Statista. All of these things do have Gen AI functionality and tools embedded into their standard offerings. A few of them have additional products and offerings that they're developing that there's still, a lot of them are still in development, so they're not necessarily available yet, but they are all for an additional cost, as I'm sure you can imagine. We live in a subscription society, so a lot of the extra bells and whistles and products and resources are an additional subscription. The library does not have access to these additional resources, and at this point, I'm not entirely sure that we would get access anytime soon, but we are paying attention to what's available. So some things to keep in mind before we jump into the actual databases. Most of these are closed models, which means that they only use the content or the materials that are already within the database that it is a part of. So these products and features are not necessarily going out to the open web to hunt for material to create its output to you when you prompt it or when you use it. So closed models are pretty great. They allow for more focused and intentional use. So in this case, it makes a lot of sense because we're working with academic material. It also helps with reproducibility, which is important when evaluating AI products and tools. So, and it's also important to us in academia, right? And, thinking about the scientific method, we want to make sure we can reproduce an outcome and that these tools can be reliable in that way. So closed models do just kind of help with that because it's a smaller amount of training data and data pool that it's pulling from to generate its output to begin with. And then also closed models do have a little bit more ground to stand on in terms of ethical concerns. So because it is smaller, it doesn't have as far of a reach, it has a lesser environmental impact, which I think is really important. It also is it focuses a lot, these products focus a lot on copyright laws. They're very respectful of copyright, which makes a lot of sense because these are academic publishers. Copyright is a really big deal in academic publishing. So this copyright and academic integrity are things that are very much at the forefront of these tools when they were developed and how they function and what their intended use is. And also a lot of these companies that the database providers, they're very transparent about how the tool was developed, what kind of data the tool pulls from, and what intended goals are for that database provider, that company, and what they want to do with AI in the future. There is a lot, and I will show you as we go through these products, there is a lot of FAQ pages, and like learn more here. So there's a lot of material out there that can help you explore these tools more fully. And I think that's really important to us as academics. I know as academic librarians, we do always kind of talk a lot about transparency and when you are evaluating the authority of certain items. So I really appreciate that with all of these companies, like including all of this additional information. Another thing to keep in mind, academic databases tend to have citation generators attached to them. So as you're using them, you will see that option to cite an article, which would take that article and provide a generated citation in all of the major citation styles. We have those in most of our databases for just the general search result lists and articles and items that you find. And of course, we all understand the pitfalls of citation generators, but they do remain helpful. I have not yet seen anything like that for the Gen AI outputs that are being created by some of these tools in the databases. So some of these tools you'll see do function like chatbots, and they will generate an output, and some of those look like reports. And I don't see any way to generate a citation for that as being something from a Gen AI tool baked into the database yet. There are ways to cite Gen AI output. People are developing that. There are definitely ways to figure out how to do that. But I do predict that these databases will eventually extend their citation tool to the Gen AI chatbot outputs. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. I don't know that these really lend themselves to like copying and pasting materials from the outputs into like student reports or research, but I do think it's important to have that option and to make sure folks are citing where they're getting information. And also a thing to keep in mind, our licensing agreements with these database providers and publishers do restrict the usage of database materials in other Gen AI products. So most of EBSCO and Elsevier products, they don't want you, all of them actually, Elsevier in particular, they in the usage agreement, they say that you cannot take material out of Elsevier products, any articles that you get from Elsevier databases, you cannot take that and then put it into something like ChatGPT. So if you're someone who likes to collect a body of literature and then put that back into a chatbot or a different Gen AI product to analyze it, our licensing agreements with our databases restrict or ban that. So rule of thumb, best not to do that. That being said, I did mention there are more advanced tools and products being developed by a lot of these companies. Elsevier does have more stuff coming, as I'm sure you can imagine. So in the future, there will probably be proprietary Gen AI tools that you could then use within the Elsevier space itself that would allow you to take that body of literature, put it all in, and do analysis using different AI technologies. And that would be within the licensing agreements between the publishers and companies like Elsevier. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Of course, that's an additional subscription. And then, a general thing to keep in mind, this technology is changing very rapidly and we're at the beginning of it still. And so things will change. I suspect I'll have another session like this in the near future. Okay, any questions before I jump into the actual databases? And remember to pop them in the chat because I can't hear anybody. Okay, feel free, I'm assuming everyone can still see my screen. Let me know if you can. Feel free to let me know any questions as we go along. Okay, so the first one we're going to explore is the Chronicle of Higher Education. So here we are on the library's homepage, and this is funny, I'm just gonna leave that in, I'll use that later. Most of where I'm gonna be playing is in our Find Databases and eJournals button here on the homepage. This will take you to a page that lists all of our subject-specific databases that we subscribe to alphabetically. You can navigate using this linked alphabet. You can search for keyword up here, or you can just scroll through the list. If you want to see what individual journals the library has access to, we do have this page over here. If you click on this, it'll take you to a keyword search where you can search for journals. So we're going to go to C for the Chronicle. And I'm sure all of you know, because we've just got faculty in here today. The Chronicle is a trade publication for folks working in higher education, and their AI tool is called Cron. And so they've got an Ask Cron here on their upper menu. And the thing with the Chronicle's AI tool, which you will see with a lot of these, is that you do need to create a free account to use it. You have access to the Chronicle of Higher Education and all of these databases because of the JKM library's subscriptions, but then you will have to create a free account on top of that in order to actually use the AI product. And I suspect that that's because you can save the outputs that you generate for future use. There might be other reasons, but I'm not entirely sure. But there are a couple that require additional accounts, and there are a couple that don't. So we will see both today. So Cron does have, as I said, a nice FAQ page that will give you the nuts and bolts of how Cron was developed, what kind of materials that it uses. So it uses pretty exclusively just materials that were published in the Chronicle of Higher Ed. And it gets into some detail about the tool itself. It uses Claude as its base layer that it builds on top of. All of these products use something bigger like ChatGPT or Claude to build off of. And so this is really valuable. You can kind of evaluate if you want to use it or not based on the information provided. So I am going to do a demonstration search prompt, if you will. Top trends in information literacy instructions. This is something directly related to my work. And it's thinking, it's cooking. And also you'll see down here at the lower part of the screen, a lot of these companies and providers want you to give feedback, right? They want to improve this product. So if you do have feedback for them, it's great to provide that so that they can continue to hone and refine their tools. This is taking a little extra long. I was playing around with this morning and it was not taking quite as long. So apologies. Here we go. Okay, so it generates the output. And this looks like a standard chatbot output that we're probably familiar with at this point. And so we do get a nice kind of layout of key takeaways and important information based on its evaluation of the material, which, according to the Chronicle, is just material published in the Chronicle. And what is nice is that it does allow you to view sources. So it's letting you kind of check its work, and it's letting you get to the source material so you can do your own investigating. Now, what's important to note for this is that you'll see some of these are pretty old. Like this article is 20 years old. This one is older than 20 years old. The most recent is from 2017. So those aren't particularly recent. And for me, as a professional engaged in information literacy instruction, not entirely helpful, right? So this would, let me know that maybe I have to go back and refine my prompt. So maybe I need to go and be specific about the dates for the materials that I want them to pull from. So it's kind of a basic chatbot in that way. So that is Cron. Let me know if you have any questions about Cron. The next one, we're going to jump into EBSCO. So we're going to be looking at our All Resources tool. So we're back on the library homepage. Our All Resources tool is our default search on our search bar in the middle of the homepage. This is an EBSCO tool that works. This is very oversimplifying it, but it works kind of like our version of Google. This is how I describe it to the students. It lets you search across a lot of our single databases and resources and tools at once. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop search, which is nice. It also will search our catalog for like our physical books as well. So it searches a lot of things at once. It's very convenient. And so this is where I direct students. This is where we all direct students to start their searching with usually. So I'm going to do the example search of economic impact of popular culture. And Kate will know, a fellow librarian in the chat here, that this style of search phrase, economic impact of popular culture, is more of a conversational search question. It's more of a conversational search phrase. This is how we would search Google. This is how most of us are very used to searching at this point. But usually when librarians are working with students, we like to get them familiar with Boolean search format. Boolean is the way that you usually would like to engage with library databases because it's more of the way that the database is built. I don't necessarily think that Boolean versus Google is any better. They're different. And we like to encourage students to use all of these tools when engaging in research to help promote that iterative process of research and to help them get different things. Each tool is better at something different, right? So the more you use different tools slightly differently, the more different stuff you're going to get back, and you'll just be able to pad your research and learn more. So EBSCO has gotten pretty good at processing, all library databases have gotten pretty good at processing natural language searching. So that's what this is up here. This is more of a natural language search phrase. And we have 8,384 search results. And if we look through them, they look pretty good. They're not terribly off base. This looks like something that might be useful to me. But if I want to play around with EBSCO's new tool, they have this new natural language toggle that you can do. So they again offer this how does it work link. So this will kind of teach you what the natural language tool is, how it works. Basically, you can extend the power of your search phrase, and it will function a little bit more like how the Google algorithm works. So they give some examples of what natural search phrases look like, which is kind of like what I put in here. And these are all lacking Boolean formatting. So Boolean formatting includes different keywords based on your search topic connected by different connector words and or not. And then you'll also have parentheticals, quotations, truncation, things like that. So it's kind of like a coding language, not quite, but you could kind of say that. And it can offer barrier or create barriers for students and researchers. So something like a natural language search just sort of smooths that over and maybe gives you more options with your search approach. So I'm going to toggle this on, and it's going to change my search result list. It's going to process my search in a different way. And you'll see, this is very interesting. It has drastically decreased my search result number. So we had well over 8,000 before. Now I have 1,623. That's much smaller, but in theory, it should be more potent or maybe a little bit more exact. And as I go through this, I do see stuff that is very helpful. I see stuff that I saw in my last search, but I also noticed that some stuff is missing from my last search that I did think was helpful. Like there was a book in there that looked like it could be helpful, and that's gone now. So at this point, I am not entirely sure if one approach is better than another. Doing a natural language search phrase without this toggled, or doing a Boolean search phrase without this toggled, or maybe trying the natural language search. What I think is that they should be doing all of these. They should try all of these approaches. They should also try Google Scholar, and they should try normal Google based on what their search topic is, because all of those things will get them valuable information back, even if that piece of information they get back is that that wasn't a good tool to use, right? Like all of that is good, valuable information in the process of research. Now, a very helpful thing about the natural language tool in all resources is that it does show its work. So you can select this show refined query, and it will show you how it converted my natural language search phrase into a Boolean search phrase. I'm going to be honest, I think this is a little overkill, which is why we got such a small search result when we toggled on natural language. So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. They did a lot here. They did a lot. And normally I would not be guiding students to create this complicated of a Boolean search phrase. But what we can do with this is take some of it and try it in a different search. So I'm going to just copy a chunk of this. I'm going to deselect natural language search. I'm going to toggle that off because we're going to go back to Boolean formatting. I'm going to tidy up my Boolean formatting, and then I'm going to search, and we'll see what we get. So now our search result gives us 12,491 search results. That is more than any of the other options. That could be both good or bad. You could then use these available filters to continue to refine your search. So again, this is all just different ways to engage with the database. And some of this is, very helpful information showing up in the search result that we didn't get before, right? So all of this can aid in the iterative process of research. So that is the all resources natural language function. Any questions about EBSCO? And we have more coming from EBSCO. So we are in the process of activating another AI feature that will extend beyond all resources and will be in some of the EBSCO subject-specific databases as well. That's called AI Insights that will be coming in future months. And I believe that's mostly like an advanced summary of different articles. Any questions before we move on to JStor? Okay. I'm going to go back to our A to Z list. JStor. Yay. Okay, JStor is known and loved by many. Let me get my sample. I have a sample search, like copying and pasting my sample searches. So JStor is one, oh, it already pops up. JStor is one that you do need to create a free account with. And I am logged into my free account. So here is a typical JStor search result list. I am searching, I've created a Boolean formatted search that focuses on artificial intelligence and ethics. And I have a pretty good search result here of about 4,500 search results. And you'll see right up at the top of our search result here, we have two options, keyword results and then semantic results. Semantic results are one of the Gen AI features that have been added to JStor. And we do have our little information window that gives you a little bit more information about the difference between keyword and semantic. So keyword really does focus on the exact words that you put into your search phrase. Semantic will broaden that and look for more related topics, parallel topics, adjacent topics, synonyms, like words and phrases, things like that. So again, it's kind of functioning a little bit more like Google does. And then it will provide additional information about JStor's AI research tool, which we will talk about in a second. So they do provide a lot of good information about what they're doing at JStor. Now, JStor is really interesting because they're very, and others are like this too, they're very restrictive about what their AI features are using. So in this case, with semantic results, it will only give you the top 25 search results using this particular style of searching. So you are limited to just 25 search results. And also they've taken away, because there's only 25 results, you don't have any filters that you would normally have on a search result page. Another thing that I cannot show you because it is random based on individual users. So if all of you create JStor accounts and start playing around with this, you might have this feature. I unfortunately do not have this feature, so I cannot show it to you. But for some folks, it's in beta mode, obviously. If you go into semantic, you will get a window over here that is basically a chatbot that allows you to prompt different things to analyze these top 25 results as a body of work, as a body of data and material that it can pull from. So JStor will go through these top 25 results and create outputs to your prompts based on what's in these top 25 results only. So some folks have that. I do not, unfortunately, but if you do have it, go ahead and play around with it. Let me know what you think. But what JStor does have is if you click into a search result, it will give you the option, so you can turn this on and off. It'll give you the option to access their AI research tool. So what this does is it only works with this document. So we are only looking at this report, and the chatbot is only using this when it's generating its output. And you can interact with this report using the chatbot. So it automatically will generate top key points and takeaways for you about the report. So this is just kind of like AI creating an abstract, basically, for articles and reports. So you can kind of skim the report a little bit this way, but then you can enter prompts into the report or just questions. So I'm going to copy paste the question. Does this article address the environmental impacts of data centers supporting AI products? Because that's part of AI ethics. And of course, this is about human rights. The chatbot is telling me that it does not address environmental impacts of data centers supporting AI products. So I could then refine my prompts. I could change my language. I could use this to investigate a little bit more, but this could be helpful for folks trying to make sure an article does actually touch on the thing that they're trying to research before diving in further. So it could be an aid to academic reading, academic skimming, because that's certainly a skill that folks should learn. So the JStor AI research tool could help with that. Okay, so that is JStor. Again, if you do get that fun feature in semantic results, so it looks like just what I just showed you, it's that exact chatbot, but instead of being restricted to just the one article, it will go through all 25 articles. Okay, so that's JStor. Next, we're going to pop into NexisUni. NexisUni focuses on business, news, case studies. There's company information, dossiers, reports, things like that. JStor is an interesting case where they are developing a lot of very interesting and robust additional AI content, features, tools, etc. But that is one of those things that will have to be subscribed to additionally. Of course, JStor is part of LexisNexis. So LexisNexis is doing a lot of work in this realm. JStor's AI features that are freely available to those of us who subscribe are only available in their news content, which is so interesting. So you can only take advantage of these functionality when you're looking for different news articles. So I wonder how it's good. I'm sure they will expand it. A lot of the stuff is kind of like in beta mode and they're still like playing around with it. But I like to just select news up in the top menu, which these are a lot of different information types that you can kind of search through. So I'll select news. I will do my sample search of just a basic artificial intelligence. And NexisUni's is different than the ones that we've seen before. And I find it kind of interesting. So here we have a standard NexisUni search result page. So we have all of our news articles listed. We have our filters over on the side, but then up here in the upper right-hand corner, we have 3 options. So these are ways that you can display your search results. So the first one just has article title and some publication information. The middle way, which is default, will also give you a handful of where your keywords that you searched, where they pop up in the article itself. So you can see artificial intelligence is highlighted in certain parts of the article. So this allows you to kind of look into the article a little bit more before you actually read it. And then the last option up here, which looks like a graph, it's called analytics. And this will allow you to analyze the search result itself. So this is where you can go through and kind of look at all of the entries that have popped up in that search result, all of the information about it put into graphs. So we can see the bulk of when things were published in that search result list. We can see the top publications that are popping up in that search result list. We've got word clouds of companies mentioned, people mentioned. They also kind of break it out more specifically to the side, so it's not just a word cloud. And then we get, different data visualizations of what that entire search result is returning. So this is kind of interesting because it gives you an overall view of your search result in general. And that's good for students because it can let them know, was their search that they did, the words that they used, is that getting them what they want? And it also will give everyone just a bird's eye view of the topic. So I do find this really interesting, and I could definitely see how this would assist in research, especially when you're building your basic information about a topic. This could be really interesting and really helpful. And I'm interested to see how they're going to expand this sort of approach. So this is NexisUni's analytics feature that, again, is only available in their news content or with their news content. The other feature that NexisUni has is a summary feature. So if we select preview off to the side in the search result list of one of our articles here, it will open up a new window. It will give a quick summary of that article, which is AI generated, and then it will let you kind of like quickly look through the article itself. I have gone through a few of these AI generated summaries. They seem mostly fine, but the formatting can be kind of difficult sometimes for me to read. So let's see if we can find other examples. These all seem mostly okay. Okay, here's a good one. So it's not very tidily presented, if you will. So sometimes that can be challenging to read through these, but the summary can be helpful, of course. And then, of course, they want your feedback, right? They want to know if that was actually helpful to you or not so they can refine the product. Okay, that was NexisUni. We're cooking along. Any questions? We're about halfway through. All right, we're going to go to the Oxford English Dictionary. This one's interesting. Now, this I feel is really helpful for like linguists and big word nerds, our writers and philosophers and all of that fun stuff. So this is an interesting one in terms of needing an account. So I'm actually curious as we're gonna observe something together, I think, today. This does not require you to have your own individual account, but it does have me signed in as the library. So we'll see if it saves my prompts because it was kind of saving my prompts before. So if we click into the AI search assistant up here in the upper right-hand corner. Yes, okay, so it saved prompts that I was playing around with earlier when I was prepping for this. So what this allows you to do is ask general questions about language, and then it does not generate anything like a chatbot, but what it does is it creates an advanced search prompt for you, and then it'll give you this link here. So I had asked which words in English are borrowed from French, and what it will do, it tells you how it's generated this advanced search. So if you wanted to recreate it on your own, you could do that. But then it gives you a link that will then take you to the search result list. So it's not generating output like a chatbot, but what it is doing is basically a version of that natural language search that EBSCO does and that JStor is kind of doing. So the prompt again is which words in English are borrowed from French. It's telling me that this advanced search link that it is provided, that it's crafted for me, is using the following filters. It is looking through the language of origin, and it is going to look for ones that match for French. So we're going to search. We're going to click on the search link that I provided. And now it's giving me a list of a lot of words, well over 25,000, that met those parameters, that these words in their entry, in their metadata, these words have the origin of being from French. So this is a list of words in English that we use in English that actually generated from French. And you can see over here on the side with all of the filters, they have it checked for you. So it's really showing its work. It's really showing you exactly what it's doing. It's just doing it maybe a little quicker for you, or if you're someone who is not comfortable with the idea of using these filters or how this database is constructed, it's kind of letting you skip over that extra work and generating the advanced search for you. So that is Oxford English Dictionary. And that is really interesting. I wonder if my prompts that I've been playing around with, if one of you went into the dictionary and went into that AI, the AI tool, if you would see my prompts as well, if we are all sharing one account. I do wonder if that would be the case. Okay, next one is ScienceDirect. Okay, this one is pretty cool, pretty interesting. ScienceDirect is an Elsevier product, so reminder that you cannot take anything. I mean, Elsevier has pretty strong language, but you can't take anything from Elsevier and probably most EBSCO products and put it into something like ChatGPT because they would like to get paid for, this is my assumption, is that they don't want those products to be trained for free on materials that they have licenses for, if that makes sense. And if ChatGPT is going to want to train on material that is housed in an Elsevier product, Elsevier is going to want ChatGPT to pay for that. So that's kind of the idea behind that. At least that's my assumption. Okay, ScienceDirect is one that you do need to create a free account for. It will prompt you to do that. And they restrict how much you can use their tool. So you get 5 articles that you can use their tool on a month. And then every month it will re-up to a fresh 5. So the thing about ScienceDirect that's important to know as well is that it is a hybrid journal. So we have a lot of open access material in here. And you can also subscribe to things I'm going to say a la carte, but that's kind of simplifying it. So there are things in ScienceDirect that we do not actually subscribe to and we do not have full text access to. So I always like to select the filter over here, subscribed journals, just to make sure that everything I'm looking at, I do in fact have full access to, and I don't get confused or frustrated because it can be a little tricky in ScienceDirect. So now you can see I've been playing around with this already. Let's click into one of our articles and we'll see up in the upper right, a reading assistant. This works almost exactly the same way as JStor's. So if I say almost exactly, but I think it is, exactly the same. I'm going to use my same prompt that I used in JStor. So when I click on it, it opens a window up on the right-hand side, which is a little disorienting. You're kind of like moving from one side of the screen to the other, but you can see they give you some suggestions of prompts, which is nice for folks learning about prompting and thinking about how to interact with this article using a chatbot. You have the option to just summarize this. So that's the same idea as like an abstract, just AI generated. And you can see down here, this is my article count. So after I play around with this now, I'll only have 3 more articles that I can play with the reading assistant for February. And then I'll have to wait until March for my 5 to re-up again. So here we go. I'm going to knock my number down to 3. And so I'm asking again if this article addresses the environmental impacts of data centers. And it's telling me it doesn't. But then it follows up with some more information. And it shows you where it's going to show up in the article as well. This allows you to copy. And now see my articles left have been knocked down to 3. So the other thing though is it does have this related papers, so it gives you more information to follow up on. So it does really function kind of as it says, like a reading assistant. So that's nice. ScienceDirect has a ton of interesting stuff coming, but again, it is going to be something that needs to be subscribed to additionally. But it does look really cool. They do have a lot of interesting things. A lot of these more academic focused companies have some really interesting products in the works that I do think would be helpful in research. Okay. Let's see what I have left. Okay, with the Oxford English Dictionary, it says, I'm signed in as Chatham University and I do not see your previous questions. Interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kate, for investigating that. That's so interesting. Okay, so last one, making really good time here. I was worried we would be way over time. Last one is Statista. Statista is a database primarily concerned with data sets, statistics, different market research reports, insights, company reports, things like that. And Statista is the weird one. Statista, in terms of transparency, Statista says that I'm going to read. So I asked the chatbot what Statista used to train and what data it used to pull from to generate its output. And this is what the chatbot told me. And also their FAQ page told me this too, but I wanted to see what the chatbot said. Statista's research AI utilizes both proprietary databases and external data sources. So this is one that pulls beyond its own collection of data. So it's not quite as closed of a model as the rest of them. While the proprietary data sources are described in detail, market insights, consumer insights, and company insights, those are all things that Statista has and generates itself. The specific external sources are not publicly listed. So they're not sharing what the outside sources are that it pulls to generate its output when you prompt it. When I continued to prompt their AI chatbot, it did finally say that one of the external sources is Kantar Media TGI, but then it wouldn't say any of the others. So this one, a little bit more cloaked, a little bit more shrouded in mystery. So keep that in mind. But this AI let's see, the research AI, here we go, does function like a chatbot. So this is one that is more chatbot-like. So it does give you an about research AI, so you can go in and read all of that stuff for yourself. Let's see, what do I have for my example prompt? So as I said, Statista is trends, stats, market and company insights, all that good stuff. So I'm going to ask, what are the social media usage trends for ages 18 to 24 over the past 10 years? Oh, no. All right, well, we can try again. Okay, here we go. So Statista is going to go through all of its reports, and it does have stuff like this. It has lots of reports and data sets for this exact topic. I've searched Statista for this in the past. And so what it does, it'll give you a very quick summary at the top, and then it goes through a slightly lengthier, I mean, in my mind, this shouldn't need a TLDR, but it'll go through a slightly lengthier, more specific report. And it will give you some fun little kind of pull out data points. It also then will give you some suggestions to continue to explore this topic. And you can copy this output. You can give feedback if this was good or bad. And then you can also refresh to start a new prompt. It will give you the sources that it pulls from over on the side. So this is very handy. You can read this as kind of an overview and summary, and then you can dive in further to the Statista reports and data sets that they have used to generate this. The external content and data materials that it has pulled to create this output, we don't know what that is. We don't even know what parts of this have created have been created based on that external information, but we do at least have quick access to the internal Statista reports that it has used. So that is Statista. And that is our tour of the library's current list of databases and tools that have new Gen AI functionality that has been embedded in it by the database provider. There are a few others that are in development, and as I said, there's one for EBSCO that we are in the process of getting activated, if you will. It takes a little bit to get it set up. So I expect that I will probably be doing more of these tours in the future. And if you ever have any sort of questions about any of these, please let us know. We're in the process of exploring them too. It's new to us as well. But yes, I wanted everyone to be aware of these for their own use or for their students' use, or if you wanted to make sure your students didn't use them, I wanted you to know that they were there. But yes, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat because I cannot hear people talking through mine. Yeah, sorry, Robert, I
sorry,
cannot
Jocelyn.
hear. And for those listening to the recording later, Robert said that he's going to explore NexisUni for a meta project that he's working on, which I do think that analytics feature would be very helpful for. 500 papers over 30 years, and the analytics visuals look very interesting. Yes. So that is a really good use of that, I think. And I do know I've worked with some students that have done similar meta-analyses, and I do think that would be really helpful. I hope they extend it to other kinds of content in that database because it seems great for the news content, and it would be really nice to see it put to use in the case law in particular. It would be really cool. Okay, Laura asks, what advice would you give on how to approach when students are wary to use AI resources in general? They seem so embedded that at this point they might be hard to avoid. It's very difficult. I mean, I personally struggle with it. I'm not a huge fan. I've got a lot of criticisms. I think what's really helped me a lot is specifically when it comes to the library's tools, the fact that these are closed models for the most part, because a lot of my problems are ethical. So with the closed models, they really feel like a more intentional application of the technology. It is, for the most part, except for Statista, very transparent about how it's created. And I think kind of introducing them to these tools might give them the practice that they need in exploring the technology in general in maybe an environment that they feel more comfortable with. I do think this is a big mental hurdle that a lot of people, especially students, have to get over, or at least they have to figure out how to navigate it because students in particular are getting a lot of conflicting messaging. We at Chatham don't have an official policy created yet. There is a lot of anxiety and fear about getting flagged for plagiarism. That's like a big one I see pop up. So I do think this is something that's definitely, it's an ongoing work in progress. So yeah, and it might be something that you can have open conversations with in your classrooms. I actually think that that would be a great way to approach this because there is a lot of emotion wrapped up in this, I've noticed. Having open, safe conversations about the technology in the classroom where people's concerns are taken seriously and you can have good conversation about it might go a long way. Keep sharing the message with students not to upload course resources, i.e. textbooks to LLMs, as this is one form of piracy. Yeah, authors, publishers are dealing with a number of class action lawsuits that students are not even aware of. Yep, exactly. Yes. So the copyright and piracy concerns are huge. That's why our vendors have in our licensing agreements language, especially Elsevier, that states that you cannot be importing any of their content from their databases into other LLM products. And then EBSCO's language leaves it more up to the individual publisher, and that is embedded in the bibliographic record for each item. But to play it safe and also just ethically, it really is best not to upload this kind of copyrighted material and proprietary material to these other LLM products, because they will take it and a lot of them will use it as training material and they benefit off of it for free. And yes, there are a lot of authors that are doing class action lawsuits right now that are getting a lot of traction, and there's a lot that's up in the air right now. It's definitely a complicated landscape. But yeah, I think that's good to talk to your students about, because it's also part of academic integrity. Yes, we just need more time to play around with these resources. Absolutely. I mean, that's that's where we're all at right now. This is at the beginning, and we're just getting started, really. Well, thank you all so much for attending. I will have this recording up soon. I will share it out broadly, and keep your eyes peeled for part 2 whenever we get enough together to offer a part 2. And otherwise, I hope you guys all have a lovely afternoon and get to enjoy the relative warmth and sun. Have a lovely day.